Hey, how's it going? I'm Ryan Hefner, and this is the All Play Podcast. I tried recording this episode for the last 2 weeks. Originally, not this last Thursday, but the Thursday before. I was trying to get it recorded before I headed out the door to go with my family to the lake for the weekend. And it turns out my microphone was not on, so I kind of scrapped that recording. I tried to record it a couple times last week. I tried to do one late at night. I realized that I was overly umming on everything, and I'll try to be a little bit more conscious about that today, but we'll see how that goes. So, tried to record one last week. I was a little bit scattered and I was all over the place. I was also just trying to remember like what was going on, what was I trying to get out of my head that Thursday prior, and then what I was trying to basically do that week. So, it was a little bit all over the place, but the one thing I can tell you is the week prior to us going to the lake, I was trying to get some stuff going on OpenGraphs, and that's at opengraphs.com if you're curious. I was basically just trying to get some stuff going. I was like working on both the marketing site and then also thinking about basically getting some tools out that I could get some people that would be useful both for myself, but also useful for other people to use at the site before I actually have the full offering up, and also just continuing to evolve the Open Graph image renderer that actually is like responsible for generating the images live. So far, that's been working good. I rolled out some optimizations to that, and again, it's currently integrated on two of my sites at ryanhefner.com and allplay.fm, and I'm going to be rolling that out to even more sites, as well as also using it on opengraphs.com, the site itself, as I roll out more pages and update and optimize that site, as I try to get it ready for the launch. So, was working on that. Everything was going good. Actually, it was interesting integrating OpenGraphs into allplay.fm because I started navigating the site and playing around, and I realized that my audio player wasn't working on allplay.fm. And not to say that that's the biggest thing. That site doesn't really get that much traffic. I'm sure it doesn't really account, or even when the player was working, it wasn't counting for that many plays. But it turns out that the way that I was requesting the MP3 file was no longer supported via the hosting platform that I'm using. For whatever reason, it seems to not allow that request to go through. And the reason why I was doing it in a slightly different format is because I actually wanted to render the waveform of the audio before I then played it back. But it was all done in the single request. It wasn't like it was one request for the waveform, one request to play the audio. So it wasn't like artificially incrementing the playback numbers, nor was it somehow bypassing any sort of like limits or, counts or whatever that would somehow keep me under my quota, which I'm well under for the plan that I'm on transistor.fm. But regardless, I had to basically go in and refactor the way that the player works. It was actually probably a good thing because I wanted to move it more towards like an audio tag instance. I was using a lot of the web API before. And the one thing I realized with that is that when you're using the web API, depending on how you initiate the playback, it doesn't always remain playing when that screen is locked or when you exit out of the browser or something like that. So that was kind of like a good change. Actually, I still need to test the browser stuff. I know it was working when I locked it with Safari Focus, but I'm not 100% sure whether it was working if I left Safari and if the playback remained playing. I don't think that was the case. Have to check. Anyways, not the point. So basically you'll see no waveforms on the site, and that's also why this episode is called No Waves. I feel like it's kind of like a little bit of a metaphor where how I've been feeling lately. It's kind of even like when I first started surfing back in when I was in New York. I would go out on days when no one would be out there. It would be on like bad flat days, but I just wanted to get out there. I just wanted to paddle around. I wanted to get comfortable on my board. And sure enough, I was there when the waves were good, and all that kind of like paddling around and just like trying to battle for these like smaller waves. It definitely helped for when some of the bigger waves showed up, but no waves, it's kind of similar to like Justin Jackson, what he talks about with You have to be in the right spot with the right waves. You have to go out and paddle. Right now, I feel like I'm paddling. I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be a wave that's going to come through. I'm trying to look at the forecast. I'm not sure where it's going to get me, but I'm trying to make progress, and I'm just getting out there and I'm paddling around. I'm going to try to figure out where those waves are. So speaking of Justin Jackson, I actually took advantage of an opportunity where Justin Jackson and Brian Castle have a podcast called The Panel, and they do that, or they've been recently doing it every Thursday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. That's on like Eastern time. But they're doing it live, so a live show. And last week, Brian was actually on vacation. So I ended up taking the opportunity to DM Justin on Blue Sky and see if he wanted to do a quick jam session episode. So he did. We did it on his channel. I don't think, I mean, I think it went okay. I could have showed up better. I think I just didn't really come with a lot of heat. I didn't come with a lot of ideas and stuff to throw at it, but I think it was a pretty good episode. So check that out. That's over on his channel. I'll make sure I link that in the show notes. But hopefully I'll have more conversations with him. I'm really interested in everything that Transistor is doing in the podcasting space, and also how to push the standard a little bit. I actually explored some of the podcasting stuff back in the day on another project, and I kind of want to rekindle that in some future stuff. But again, not trying to stay somewhat focused, and going to focus on getting OpenGraphs out. Gonna get back to Sky Lounge at some point. I've kind of have that one on hold at this point, because I was trying to time box that for May, and I just kind of missed the box, and I just don't know, don't have a very clear vision about what the long-term goal for that is, but I can see obviously a very short-term milestone for OpenGraphs. I also will be using OpenGraphs on Sky Lounge as well as on starterpacks.net. So it's a good foundational thing that I can be focused on, and that's why I'm trying to push through. But I'm also in the wake of getting the final thing done, and as I kind of test it more and do more exploration and actually work on some resources for the site, I'm learning more and more about actually the OpenGraph spec, and also the kind of limited implementations that a lot of sites seem to use. It's like the fact that most sites only render a single image, when technically the spec supports you can have an array of images. So like the fact that you could potentially have carousels where your links are shared is an interesting thing. I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff that could be done to push the standard forward, and maybe having a system that allows you to have better control over that, as well as maybe, who knows, tools that publishers could use to better surface and navigate that information could be interesting. So it's got my mind spinning, and I don't know, it's all good stuff for as I explore OpenGraphs and work on opengraphs.com. I have been working on a browser extension. I started that last Wednesday, and I thought it was going to be, like within 2 hours, I basically had an initial Chrome extension version that was working. It was using this new side panel format for it, which is really cool, because essentially the extension remains open and accessible as you navigate around a site or different sites, as well as different tabs and stuff. So I want to have, basically, I think the actual first released software that I'm going to have for OpenGraphs is going to be a browser extension. The one thing that's a little bit wild is the kind of, it's a wild west as far as the actual experience of extensions across various browsers, whether it's Chrome based browsers or Firefox or whatever else. There's a new standard, at least for Chrome, to have it in the Chrome web store, which is you have to have the manifest v3. Not trying to get into specifics here, but that offers stuff like side panel and these other things that doesn't seem to be supported in Firefox. And when you try to basically have a side panel first extension, that kind of breaks the way that things work in Firefox. So this dream of having a single extension that you can write and deploy for like Chrome and Firefox, and obviously some Safari is a whole nother thing because there's an Xcode project and stuff. But the dream of being able to have this one thing that you write and deploy everywhere is not quite there, and even is a kind of a mess across other Chrome-based browsers like Arc or Dia and all these other ones that are based on Chrome, because they all implement their handling of extensions slightly differently. So a lot of learning there. I'm going to try to just remain focused and get the first kind of like Chrome, like regular Chrome optimized one out there. And then I'll figure out how to kind of break out my code in the code base. Thankfully, it's all within a monorepo. So I think I will be able to reuse a lot of the stuff that's in the one, and then just kind of change the manifest, change the way that the extension is triggered, and a few other ones. And should be able to get that onto Firefox fine. And also have it work in these, I guess, non-side panel supported Chrome versions of browsers, but I'm going to try to get that out there. So I'm over my 10 minutes. Needless to say, I'm trying to make progress. I think things are going okay on OpenGraphs. I'm going to try to get this browser extension out and get another tool actually out on the site itself, just as a way to kind of start building up the pages, start building up, share it around. Maybe people start using it, and see where things go as I continue to build out the actual main app and the APIs and all this other stuff. But the more that I'm exploring and just researching OpenGraphs in general, the OpenGraph protocol, it is giving me more ideas and ways that I think I can both make OpenGraphs better, as well as creating some more tools that will help allow others to take advantage of the protocol to its full extent. So going to leave it there. I'm Ryan Hefner. This is the All Play Podcast. You can find episodes at allplay.fm. The players should be working. If they are not, please let me know. DM me on Blue Sky or straight at me or whatever. And yeah, and if you're liking these episodes and if you are subscribing or whatever, I would love, like a rating or review or whatever. Just let me know that you're there and if this is valuable or not. But I guess from there, I'll just play you out. Oh man, let me try this again. All right, have a great one. Later.